I was pleased when I was called. I wasn't originally called to be asked to give the message. They called me to ask if I knew who could come and bring a message on climate justice. I was pleased with the topic they selected. Many of you may not know, but within United Methodist Women, they mentioned previously in telling you about United Methodist Women that it's the largest women's organization of this sort in the world, 800,000 strong. Another claim to fame United Methodist Women has is it offers the largest educational opportunity of the denomination. Every year, topics are selected about 5 years ahead of when they're being presented. Each year, there is a new spiritual growth study. This year, it happens to be living in a covenant community. And then the area study and the social action study alternates, and they're done 2 years at a time. Last year was the first year for climate justice, the social action study for last year, and it's being repeated again this year. I talk about these studies being offered, and what does that mean? Well, for a long time, starting, I think, back in the 1940s, United Methodist Women and its predecessor organizations started gathering women together for what they called Schools of Christian Mission, where women came together to study about some of the issues of the church. There was always a spiritual growth study to help them develop their spirituality and their connection to God, but along with that, there was always an social action study, and there was always a geographic study. So we learned about the world and through the geographic study, and we learned about the issues that exist in the world that we might not be aware of through the social action study. So this whole process of United Methodist Women nationally developing studies has been going on more than 50 years, for a long time, which is why so many women who are involved in United Methodist Women seem to know so much about so many things, because there's a lot of variety in what we're offered to study. A couple of years ago, this unwieldy term, Schools of Christian Mission, it sounded kind of academic and might have scared some people away from doing it. And so the name was changed to something that was easier to say, and so it's now called Mission U. Mission U with a small u. It doesn't stand for Mission University. It stands for mission, which we of the United Methodist Church are very avid about. And the U is just kind of a U meaning you and me, and U meaning learning, and U meaning unity, and U meaning anything you want it to mean, Mission U. In our particular conference, our Mission U event is happening this coming week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at Lake Huron Retreat Center. I'm sure some of your women will be there to hear about the studies. I'm currently dean of that, so am in charge of getting it planned and seeing that it goes. I don't lead the studies, I just make sure the studies are available to be taught. And I don't claim to be a preacher. We leave that to the people who are trained in doing those kinds of things. But you heard in my bio that I'm an educator. So when I bring messages, I kind of bring education pieces. I was an educator before I was a United Methodist Woman, but that just meshed real tightly with who I've become as being a part of United Methodist Women, the opportunities I've had, and the things that I've learned. So I'm giving my message a title, Climate Justice, with a subtitle, A Call to Hope and Action. Think globally, act locally. I'm starting out with a quote I probably first heard 25 or 30 years ago as a much younger adult, but it's meant a lot to me in a lot of context. So the context comes out of just prior to World War II. A German Protestant pastor, Martin Niemöller, in pre-war World War Germany, stated it this way: "First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. And then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for the gypsies and the physically and mentally impaired, and I did not speak out because that was not what I was. And then they came for the Catholics, and I did not speak out because I was not Catholic. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." That was Germany in the late 1930s, early 1940s. This is today. Let me put it in a different context. First, the glaciers began to melt, and I did not speak out because wildlife there and the higher ocean levels weren't near me. Then there was deforestation and habitat destruction of millions of acres in the Amazon River basin. And I did not speak out because I don't live there. Then there was the land degradation that reduced available land for creatures and crops by erosion, development, and desertification. And I did not speak out because that wasn't my land. Then there was the degradation of the water quality that directly or indirectly pollutes lakes, rivers, and oceans. But I didn't speak out because that's not where my water comes from. And then there was pollution in the groundwater where my well is. And who's there to help me speak out against that? This brings us to our topic for today, climate justice. Climate justice is a term used for framing global warming as an ethical and political issue, rather than one that is purely environmental or physical in nature. We read in the United Methodist Book of Discipline, that brown book that resides in churches that seems to get pulled out whenever there's controversy going on in a congregation. But many of you don't know that there's a second volume to it, a volume called the Book of Resolutions, which tells the stand our denomination has taken on a great variety of social issues of our day. In the Book of Resolutions, 2012, I don't currently have the 2016 one yet. In paragraph 160, it tells us, "All creation is the Lord's, and we are responsible for the ways in which we use and abuse it. Water, air, soil, minerals, energy resources, plants, animal life, and space are to be valued and conserved because they are God's creation and not solely because they are useful to human beings. God has granted us stewardship of creation. We should meet these stewardship duties through acts of loving care and respect." It's in the Book of Social Principles, paragraph 160. And I brought some faith and facts, environmental justice brochures that are out on the United Methodist Women table, if you'd like them for yourselves, that tell this quote I'm quoting. These quotes, these issues that come up in the Book of Resolutions are things that General Conference, which meets every 4 years, I'm sure most of you are available, they affirm or reaffirm the many resolutions in this book that our denomination takes a stand on. If you ever have a chance to take a look at the book, you'll learn a lot, because the denomination has taken stands on things that you would have no idea of what they're about. But besides the church taking a stand on things, which is what the Book of Resolutions is all about, United Methodist Women take stands on things too. None of them in conflict with the church, but sometimes they break it down into smaller segments that we can study and learn more about them. United Methodist Women calls for sound stewardship of the earth and environmentally friendly lifestyles that can preserve creation for the benefit of present and future generations. United Methodist Women's National Office has made climate justice one of 4 social issue priorities. To welcome and support environmental justice advocates, we work to provide practical, theologically sound tools to guide and inspire our work. The resources were developed to delve through the deep intersectional injustices between gender, race, economic, and climate injustice. We want people to gain an understanding that the lens United Methodist Women uses to look at climate justice, along with environmental justice steps that some communities are most affected by, are taking to address to the concern, such as changes in temperature, from the old unusual cold in the American Northeast to the blazing temperatures in the Southwest, to droughts, fires, and floods across the country and around the world. Some of these things affect some cultures and people and countries more than others. As we continue to explore this important issue, we want everyone to be aware of the ways and policy and law have created many of the issues that affect sacrificed communities. At the same time, those environmentally based areas, although at times also affected by storms and environmental problems, live on relatively unaffected. Power plants, manufacturing, mining, waste incinerators, waste dumps, railroad lines, seaports, sewage treatment plants, and trucking routes magnify the concerns during extreme weather events for the most economically vulnerable. Think hurricanes, tornadoes. The factors that cause greenhouse gases, the key contributor to human-caused climate change, can also lead to health issues for many people living in where they're affected by it, such as asthmas, cancers, immune system disorders, hormonal imbalances, and ultimately displacement, impoverishment, and migration. I'm sure we've all seen stories, even recently this summer, on television or newspapers, in your reading, that help you understand some of these things happening in our world, in our country. Be aware and be encouraged to learn more about your own areas. By framing the concern in our historic Wesleyan desire for creation and social justice. I remember recently reading the book 3 Simple Rules by Bishop Reuben Job. 3 simple rules of being a Christian. If you're not aware of them, the first is do no harm, followed by do good, and finally, stay in love with God. By getting a first-hand look at community struggles and actions through the broad expanse of work, we can gain a holistic look at our approach to addressing this overwhelming concern in manageable ways. Several years ago, the UN held a global climate justice summit. And as they wound down, a woman from living on one of the islands in the Pacific, where the rising ocean temperatures are a real concern, shared a poem that she had written, a poem written for her 7-month-old daughter, a poem from a woman who was worried about having a passport for her country, but for the day in perhaps the near future when her country will no longer exist. We talk about people having no passports from the country, but you've got the passport, but what do you do when your country's no longer there? And so she writes to her 7-month-old daughter, "Dear baby daughter, you are a 7-month-old sunrise of gummy smiles. You are as bald as an egg and as bald as the Buddha. You are thunder thighs and lightning shrieks, so excited for bananas, hugs, and our morning walks past the lagoon. But baby daughter, I want to tell you about that lagoon, that lucid, sleepy lagoon lounging against the sunrise. Some people say that one day that lagoon will devour you. They say it will gnaw at the shoreline, chew at the roots of your breadfruit trees, gulp down rows of your seawalls, and crunch your island's shattered bones. They say you, your daughter, and your granddaughter too will wander rootless with only a passport to call home. Dear baby daughter, don't cry. Mommy promises no one will come and devour you. No greedy whale of a company sharking through political seas. No backwater bullying of businesses with broken morals. No blindfolded bureaucracies going to push this mother ocean over the edge. No one's drowning, baby. No one's moving. No one's losing their homeland. No one's going to become a climate change refugee. Or should I say, no one else. I take this moment to apologize to you while we are drawing the line here, because baby, we're going to fight. Your mommy, your daddy, your country, and your president too, we will all fight. And even though there are those hidden behind platinum titles who like to pretend that we don't exist or we don't matter, that the Marshall Islands, Tuvalu, Kiribati, Maldives, and typhoons in the Philippines, and the floods in the Pakistan, Algeria, and Colombia, and all the hurricanes and earthquakes and tidal waves didn't exist. Still, there are those of us who see hands reaching out, fists rising up, banners unfurling, megaphones booming, and we are canoes blocking coal ships. We are the radiance of solar villages. We are rich, clean soil of the farmer's past. We are petitions blooming from teenage fingertips. We are families biking, recycling, reusing, engineers dreaming, designing, building, artists painting, dancing, writing. We are spreading the world, and there are thousands out on the street marching with signs hand in hand, chanting for change now. They're fighting for us, baby. They're marching for us because we deserve to more than just survive. We deserve to thrive. Dear baby daughter, your eyes are heavy, drowsy with weight. So just close those eyes, baby, and sleep in peace, because we won't let you down. You'll see. Gracious God, help us to understand the world beyond what we see in our daily lives. For the conditions of this world are affecting people the world over. People with serious issues of what will happen to their land if some of the global justice, climate justice, environmental justice issues are not dealt with. Not in the future, Lord, but now. Educate us now. Speak to our hearts that we may be aware and stand up for what you would have us do. In the name of Jesus the Christ, amen.